I'm beginning to suspect that the post-pandemic vibe shift wasn't just a change in culture, but a time slip. The death of the global social feed and its centralizing forces has transported us back to a time before it. It cannot have failed to escape your notice that Y2K is back, baby. Juicy couture, low-rise jeans, Nirvana tees and pleated skirts are everywhere. Emo's back and Blink-182 and Green Day all have new singles out. But beyond the worlds of fashion and music, out in wider culture, and especially the world of technology, Y2K is back too. After a decade of moribund stasis, plus the post-pandemic claustrophobia, we've vibe shifted into a glorious world of speculation. Optimism appearing about what technology could be and what it could do for us. Y2K is back in Silicon Valley too. Just look around at all the buzzwords: driverless cars, AR, VR, Metaverse, AI, agents, all Y2K topics that were discussed in depth and in detail alongside the emergence of the internet. Only now, these topics aren't speculation and in some theoretical future. 25 years later, we're living it. But in our future, we have a real problem. It's always now on the internet. At least fashion, with its elliptical trend logics and reinterpretation of aesthetic, has a sense of its own history. For people who spend way too much time on social platforms, history doesn't exist at all. For them, 2 weeks ago is ancient, let alone 2 decades or more. But deep and informative writing from the late 90s and Y2K about the topical technological buzzwords of today are still out there, saved on aging servers and in unstyled web pages, writing that has been online for nearly as long as the web has existed. If you ever want to feel better informed about some new idea, buzzword, or piece of marketing about a new technology that's been announced recently, I suggest looking at what Wired magazine had to say about it the first time in the 1990s. Writing about autonomous robots in September of 1994, Mark Tilden said the following: "Some functions require domesticated robots, wild robots that have been bribed, tricked, or evolved into household roles, but the wild robot has to come first." This is a useful insight into how LLMs are currently being developed and used. Prompt engineering, weights, and attention mechanisms are all constraining and domesticating forces on the wild robot. Prompt injection is the bribing and tricking of a wild robot too. In a 1995 column called A Bill of Rights, WRITES, Nicholas Negroponte wrote, "In a digital world, the bits are endlessly copyable, infinitely malleable, and they never go out of print. Millions of people can simultaneously read any digital document, and they can also steal it. So how do we protect digital information? Having a Bill of Rights now means that we can spend the next 20 to 50 years hammering out new digital property laws and international agreements without stunting the future. More importantly, it means that publishers and authors can elect to make their bits available after they decide that they've earned enough, and the bits will be ready to go." This article, nearly 30 years on, in the context of AI dataset training data, content ownership, and some calls for draconian copyright laws from people who really should know better, seems rather prescient. Just this week, OpenAI announced its agents. The subject of agents in systems is something that a lot of people spent a great deal of time thinking about in the late 90s. If you meet someone excitedly talking about their application in Discord or Telegram, ask them politely if they've read What's an Agent Anyway?, a sociological case study by L.N. Fauna, published in 1993. It's a great paper about the social and cultural impact of the deployment of the chatbot and autonomous agent Julia amongst real humans populating the virtual worlds of Tinymud and Druidmuck. It's an essay chock full of highly relevant learnings about the design of agents and their execution in technosocial systems. Find it online as a PDF or on a very broken webpage that's still hosted by MIT. If people ask you about the Metaverse, ask them if they've read Avatars from 1998, or Margaret Wortham's The Pearly Gates of Cyberspace from 1999. The internet of the late 90s and early noughties was a lot closer to the post-vibe shift world of the internet that we are moving towards. A maze of twisty little passages, labyrinths of chat rooms and forums, small communities talking with one another in the dark forests with no central gathering space, and people writing at the time tried to make sense of it all. I'm young enough to remember this internet, but I'm not old enough to have read all of these old texts, books, essays, and works of criticism at the time. Gen Z doesn't know anything about the world that Y2K nostalgia is mining at all. If you really want to understand what's going on in the world right now in the context of the Y2K revival, pick up an old book like We Did in Y2K. They're £1 on eBay or $1.99 in Oxfam. That's all you need to do.